to the foundation of the music, to all the godfathers who set it.
This is Musically Speaking. I'm Clyde Mckenzie. Wow. You know, I like to bring legends on this program. People who have made things happen. This man is young, relatively, yes, but he's a legend, without question. I have the greatest admiration for this man's contribution, his knowledge, his skills. A man who really is from outstanding stock. Yeah. The man come from the Geddes family out of Portland, you know. The great Mortimer Geddes is his grandfather.
That's right.
Yo, that's not ordinary.
That's right.
But this man has blazed a trail for himself in the entertainment business. So it's not about Uncle Tino and Uncle David and all the rest of it, Auntie Yolanda and all of them things. It's not about that. It is about what he has done. And believe me, it takes a lot to impress me. This youth, I call him youth, yeah, is impressive. Talking about Kamal Bankay, he is, among other things, the chairman of Dream Entertainment, right?
That's right.
So there is a lot to talk about with Kamal because not only is he a practitioner, but he is a man who understands the business from a theoretical, from an intellectual standpoint. And that's what makes it refreshing. It's not just a man who is in the business, he knows the business. And so we're going to be talking about festivals, something that he is really adept at. You know, he has been involved in many festivals, doing many things across the world, not just Jamaica, but he has been doing things. And I want to talk to him today about just the business of festivals, the importance of festivals to the world and to Jamaica in particular. Are we doing enough in terms of festivals? We don't have many big festivals anymore in Jamaica. The reasons we will interrogate later with Kamal. I mean, and there are many, many reasons why we don't have as many festivals in Jamaica. But should we be having more? Those are questions that we're going to be talking to Kamal about. And you never know, I might just ask Kamal to play some tune to, because Kamal produces music. Kamal is also a jock in his own right. So it's all of those things that we're talking about. So gear up. This one is going to be a real humdinger. Welcome, Kamal.
Thank you for having me, Clyde. Appreciate it.
It's my great pleasure. Let me start with this whole question of, I'm going to get personal and your involvement with festivals.
Sure.
I mean, how did you start in this business?
In the festival business?
Yes.
So, most people start in the festival business by being a smaller event organizer. So, one of the considerations that we try to, educate people about is that in Jamaica, we use the term promoter widely, right? So, in North America, when you say promoter, it's usually somebody that goes on the ground and promotes a show on behalf of like a club or, a festival or something like that. But in Jamaica, a promoter is generally the owner of the event, which is one of the nuances we have to try
Right.
to...
So in promoter is usually, in some instances, internationally, he's an organizer, and he is perhaps a paid organizer of the event.
Right.
But in Jamaica, the promoter is the owner.
Correct. The owner and the organizer.
Yeah, well, Jamaica always do things differently.
Right.
And that do you think that absence of the division of labor in terms of, the promoter separated from the funder, or owner, you think that is a result of the size of the market that we have?
No, I think
Or
what
just a cultural
no,
thing?
it's just a cultural thing. I mean, I think it's in a mature, market like North America, which is our closest first world market. What usually happens is that you have the owners of the clubs, and it's primarily a club and venue driven market. Even the touring companies like Live Nation, AEG, so
AG
on
and so on,
forth.
yes.
Those people, they own the venues, they own the tours, the festivals, whatever, and then they subcontract out the promotion or stuff like that, the marketing to promoters on the ground. So one of the nuances that we tackle with is that, when we have international conversations, we say, yes, well, we are promoters in Jamaica, but we own the actual event. And that sometimes, it's a little confusing.
Causes confusion.
Right. So we try to clarify that up front
Yeah,
and qualify the statement.
Definitions are essential,
Right.
and when you don't have that, you tend to have confusion.
Right.
So basically, Kamal, as is customary, Jamaicans make a distinction in how we do
Yes,
business.
man.
We do business, and you are indeed a promoter and an owner of Dream, for example.
Sure.
That's how it
Sure.
it is. Yes.
So you were asking initially how I got involved. So
Yeah.
basically what happens is that you start out, typically in Jamaica by doing small events. I mean, I started out doing events in my mother's backyard. And then, just started to grow and grow and grow. And it became people, in the thousands. And then, you start to get, proper commercial venues and, leverage that. And you keep growing and keep growing. And then we had opportunities to, and I mean, I've always had great partnerships throughout my life. So I've never been like the solo promoter over there. I mean, everything that I do involves a wide range of very, very talented and, diligent partners that, everybody brings skill sets to the table. I do with some, and other people bring other skill sets. So throughout the career, I mean, I've been involved with these dynamic partnerships, and then we're able to create brands and I would call it, promotional machinery that we're able to start to get involved in the events in the grill. My first events in the grill were Spice, partnering with the Hybrid crew, and then we did something called Ibiza that we did with Smirnoff maybe about 19 years ago. And then eventually we got involved in ATI.
we're going to take a break shortly because this is intriguing. This is one of the powerful stories in Jamaican entertainment, particularly the promotion aspect of it, because Dream is a reality. It's a huge reality.
Yeah, man.
So we're going to talk about that, but we're going to break for the a little bit of horse racing. Going to go to the track at Caymanas Park to hear what is going on with the betting, and then we'll be right back because this is Musically Speaking, and we're talking here with Kamal Bankay today, and that's going to be filled with a lot of information about music and entertainment and festivals. Musically Speaking.
All of merit to the foundation of the music, to all the godfathers who set it.
Musically Speaking, that's the program. As I indicated to you earlier on, I have Kamal Bankay in studio. And for those of you who don't know, this man is chairman of Dream Entertainment, and we know all about Dream Weekend, and we can tell you about so many other things he's been involved in with Ribbies and so many different things. He also is involved in policy making.
Yes.
You know, because that's a significant part of his contribution to. So it's not a matter of just doing things for his own business, but for the industry.
Sure.
And facilitating festivals is a big part of that too. How
Absolutely.
how we finance and fund these things, and how we get them on the way. So we were talking a little bit, Kamal, about your start in the business, and you indicated that a critical component of the success that you have had in the business is that you have had the appropriate types of partnership.
Yes.
In other words, you are emphasizing that this promotion business is not a one-man show.
Well, I mean, it can be.
Mm-hmm.
It can be. But I have found that the most successful types would obviously be when you have partners that are equally vested, or vested to some extent, may not necessarily be equally, but vested to some extent. So they'll put out great amounts of sweat equity and bring skill sets to the table. I mean, what people may not understand when they just hear about running a festival is that it kind of takes one of the widest ranges of skill sets you can possibly imagine to run a festival.
Yes.
I mean, you're talking about from production, and that is everything to do with like sound stage, lighting, video, all of those things.
And getting that right.
And you have to get it perfect because the stakes are high. So you have the production element. Then you have the logistics element, meaning like setting up a venue and, you know, planning the grounds and site and whatever, bathrooms and facilities, those kinds of things. And that's a whole logistics challenge in terms of like security and ingress and egress, those kinds of things. It takes a logistical
Ticketing
mind.
and promotion.
And then you get to marketing and sales, right? Which is a completely different aspect in terms of like getting the creative done, getting the marketing out there, understanding marketing, and then of course the budgeting and finance, which takes a mind that can wrap their head around spreadsheets and, you know, doing bookkeeping and so on and so forth, permitting and, you know, regulation and those kinds of things, wrapping all of those things up together, and general project management. I mean, when you look at all of the skill sets required in terms of running a festival, food and beverage, I mean, you're talking about, you know, 10 people that are experts are needed to run these things. So you make a choice. You can either bring on partners that have the experience in each of those departments, or you can, you know, outsource to service providers that do them. You know, in my experience, it's been a hybrid of both. So bringing on partners that are vested, and, you know, partners would bring me on.
And then you hire some of the services.
And then you get the service providers that are also experts. But you have the persons who are knowledgeable about those, managing those departments. So that's very, very critical in terms of understanding how to structure a festival management.
Which brings me to the question of background, because
Sure.
what we're talking about is not a walk in the park. So
Sure.
people, you talk about facility with reading and creating spreadsheets and
Sure.
doing all of these kind of logistical operations and so on and so forth. It is not something that is for the weak-minded.
Right.
You have to have some intellectual heft to do it. So, I mean, people who just see it as show don't understand the business side of it.
Right.
And that's...
And
yes.
I mean, you know, also there's the X factor, which is essentially the purpose of the festival, which is the music. Right. So if you don't have a good grasp of the X factor, you know, the talent, the entertainment management,
and the sense of what is happening in the marketplace at the time.
correct. If you don't have that X factor, you could plan on logistics out your festival, and you won't have the, you know, what I call the fairy dust, what makes the festival magical.
Because you have to have that granular feel and know what is happening on the ground.
Yeah, for sure. So you have to have all of those things together. And ultimately, if you don't, if you're missing, you know, one or more of them, you're at huge risk of a failure. And the stakes are high with the festival business.
All right, I'm going to ask you this question, Kamal.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm going to get personal with you because you are from a certain kind of background. I
Okay.
mean, right? You're a champion, them kind of things, that kind of background.
Sure.
How was that? I mean, because a lot of you have a lot of big names in the entertainment business, like the Solomon Sharps and these people who have come out of a place like that. How does that help you in terms of being involved in the entertainment business, the connections and the maybe, I don't know if there's a culture there that lends itself to that kind of thing, or the kind of resources you can draw on from your network and people in as your schoolmates and so on.
It's not resources. Very little to do with that. To be honest with you, there are two, well, I would say three critical things that I would call, the anchors of I guess my journey's success. One is obviously a passion for music.
Yeah, that's definitely there.
Right, because I actually started DJing before I started promoting events. So I was DJing when I was in high school. In Khaki, I was playing music, right? So I had a love affair with music from I was in high school. I mean, I was, growing up as a child, toddler to teenage, I loved music, right? And then it just kept developing, and I just became a DJ, right? But so you have to have a love of music. If you don't have a love of music, like you won't love the business.
Yeah, it is not.
It becomes mechanical. Right?
It's
It
not
becomes
a passion.
No.
Yes.
So you have to have a passion for doing it, because you're looking on, and this is one of the things that people kind of don't understand in terms of, if you're in a position where your parents make sacrifices. My mother made huge sacrifices to send me to good schools, right? So of course I went to Campion, proud graduate, and of course I was well educated in high school. I went to UA, and I was well educated at UA. But sacrifices in terms of creating an environment where I could learn and could excel and so on and so forth. From I started at Peter and Paul, went to Campion, went to UA. That's my journey academically. And you will be equipped with a good baseline knowledge, but then you need to start layering on your passions on top of that. And when you start with that, you're given options in front of you, and especially when I was coming up in the 90s, you're given options. Oh, well, why you don't be an accountant, or why you don't become a doctor?
Yeah, you're a bright boy.
Why you don't do this?
So why you choose the entertainment thing?
Passion, as I said to you. I became a DJ. It's passion. I can't get it out of me.
Was there resistance? I mean, did your parents say, Kamal, you're losing your way? I mean, come on now, you're a bright fellow. Come on, get with it. Did you have that kind of resistance? That kind of opposition?
Not from my parents. So both of my parents are educators, right? And essentially, both of them are extremely bright. And, they followed their passion. So if they applied themselves, they could have become big executives, right? But they chose to become educators and give back to, the educational system and churn out, other bright kids.
So that explains your analytical side and your side.
I mean, I guess,
and policy instead of just talking about your own business.
You have to give back, but I mean, it's so there's an educational process that they would have went through. But the point that I'm making is that they were allowed to follow their dream and their passion of teaching and their subject.
And they allowed you to do that.
So they allowed me to do the same.
Gonna take a break. Musically speaking, we're talking to Kamal Bankay. We'll be right back. Musically speaking, this is Clyde Mckenzie here with Kamal Bankay. We're talking festivals. And believe me, this is an intriguing one. But let's just remind you that you should join the Bridge 99 FM on Saturday, December 17 for the grand opening of Superlative Auto at its new home in Cooks and Penn, Portmore Pines. Visit the new location for the latest fleet of vehicles and have a chat with your favorite representatives from Superlative Auto. Take advantage of this opportunity and discuss your options with our finance and insurance partners during the grand opening on Saturday, December 17, starting from 10 to 4. Come out in your numbers for the fun and excitement at the grand opening of Superlative Auto, Cooks and Pen, Portmore Pines. Superlative Auto, you don't pay more, you get more. Musically speaking, yes. Kamal, we were talking about influences and
Sure.
how you might have been affected by some of the choices your parents might have made, and how they gave you a certain latitude in terms of your career choices.
Right. Right. So, I mean, for me, it was very helpful that I was not pigeonholed into a career choice. My parents stipulated, finish university so that you have a degree and you can do what you want, meaning with the degree.
So you have options.
So you have options, But for me, it was actually a little bit more than that because, going through university, I was exposed to a particular level of degree work in a wider cross section of things than I was in high school. And I was able to during that process, you kind of, synthesize and go a little bit more in depth. And I was able to kind of utilize some of those skills that I learned.
So were you honing your entertainment promotion skills while in university?
Absolutely. So while I was at UE.
So you were getting involved in projects there?
As a matter of fact, before I went to UE, I started doing my first events, as I had mentioned earlier. And straight throughout university, I would have been doing events straight throughout. So ultimately, I was working and going to school at the same time, but working in the entertainment industry as a micro entrepreneur, right? So seasonally, I would do my events, Trilogy, Mimosa. Those are some of my first events. And of course, being able to go to university and learn some of the theoretical and challenge some things on both sides. So I would use the theoretical and try and challenge things in the real world.
And sometimes use the practice.
Sometimes use the practice and challenge things in the theoretical, to the dismay of my lecturers at times.
But sometimes you had the more granular feel of what was happening.
Right, because I was on the pulse. I was there. I was actually doing it. So they're talking about marketing events, and I'm like, well, I just did an event.
And it's not exactly as you say it.
For 5,000 people. And this is exactly how I got the people. And the textbook would have been written 5-10 years ago because it wasn't computer learning knowledge. And I said, this is the solution. This is the key. And it was quite a interesting joust, right? So, but ultimately, I came out with a degree, and I came out with a degree.
But the synthesis of the practical and the theoretical worked real wonders for you.
Right. So as I was saying, I came out with a degree and I came out with a degree, right? So I had a degree in practical and a degree in the theoretical.
Yes.
Straight through my university career. And I, transitioned out into the working world and into the entrepreneurship world at the same time, and, got involved in public relations from a formal sector working job side of things, and then also continued with my entertainment journey.
But your personality is one which must have played a critical role in your being so successful in what you have done. I think if there's somebody who doesn't like Kamal, that would be a sign that something might be wrong with that person. And so how important is the whole question of human relations and being able to manage different personalities, some of them which might be a bit brittle and all of that? How do you navigate that kind of space? Because the entertainment industry is filled with people who are sometimes difficult to deal with.
So one of the things that I try to speak to in management, right? Because of course, in what I do now is really all about management. I say companies are groups of people. So people run the world. It's not companies run the world. So people run the world, and how you navigate your relationships with everybody from the highest too, the lowest rung, in terms of the corporate structure, and people all around the world, determines how you leverage your faith, ultimately. So managing relationships with people through all walks of life is the key to success, because it's people run the world. That's it.
People make the world go round.
Well,
Yeah. Now, talking about the organization of festivals and just the festival scene now as it is today, are you comfortable with it? Do you think we are doing enough by way of festivals?
who is we, Clyde?
We as Jamaica as a country, because there are many people who believe that we could be doing far better as a country in terms of having more festivals.
So I need to qualify the question so I can have the correct answer. I don't like to speak about we as a country
Okay.
in regards to festivals. I like to dissect it
Okay.
to deal with, are you speaking specifically about government of Jamaica festivals, national festivals?
All right,
Or are
so-
you talking about festivals that are owned and operated by private entrepreneurs?
All right. So my question is, do you think we have sufficient enough festivals in Jamaica attracting visitors to the island and generating revenue both for private individuals and for the country?
Short answer, no, we don't have enough. We could do a lot more, and we should do a lot more.
What do you think would be some of the things that we should be doing to bring that about? Because you have spoken about skill sets, which the skill sets that you have spoken about are not something that you just pick up out on the streets like that.
What people have to always remember is that, for by and large, the festival business is built around the talent. It's surrounded by the talent. I mean, a party is sometimes, music, food, entertainment, beverage service, all inclusive, and it's balanced. But festivals, by my definition of festivals, which include some amount of live entertainment, it is based around talent. So start there. Now, we are in a position where we have to look at why people travel for festivals, right? Or is it a local homegrown event, right? So Jamaica's dynamic is very, very interesting. We have homegrown a plethora of international megastar artists that live and exist in Jamaica. What does that mean? The local audience is able to go to various places and hang out with the artists that they know and love every week. Corner dance up here, this artist have a birthday, some more artists come in, and this is happening all around Jamaica. And you're able to see and go out there and experience your artists in Jamaica every week. So what is the motivation for you to pay a large amount of money to see the same artist that you see week in, week out?
Over the street corner, at the street corner.
Right. In a very intimate and real setting where you can maybe even have a conversation with them. And then you're going to pay to go to. So you have to look at production value.
And how you customize the event too.
Right. So my thing is, if you try to do an event of the caliber of Sting, Sumfest, Dream Weekend every month in terms of the lineup of talent, it would oversaturate the market if it's just local talent. You're not going to go to the same kind of event January, February, March, April, all 12 months, seeing the same artists, same local homegrown artists. So that is going to prevent you from saying, well, you're going to develop more and more and more of these large scale festivals because of just, closeness to the talent and oversaturation. So that's one issue, and that's looking at the local market with like a geofence local market. Then you look at the destination festival kind of construct, which is okay, the same Dream Weekend, Sumfest, Sting, those kinds of things. Can you put them on every month and invite tourists to come? So the short answer is yes, you can. But here is the kind of, fly in the ointment. Our artists are touring hard. So the man from New York and Texas and Miami and Toronto and London has these artists coming to his hometown. So why is he going to get on a plane, fly to Jamaica, specifically to see a show with Spice, if Spice is in Connecticut next week? So it has to be a special experience. It has to be an amalgamation of experiences together.
Yes.
Multi-day, multi-artists that you can't get in Connecticut.
You can't replicate in Connecticut.
Can't get it in Houston. Right? You can't
So
get
it's
it
the
in California.
customization now of that event that is going to make it a different experience
layering.
from anything else.
And the layering, right? So you have to make it over the top and magnificent. And if you're able to do that, like some of the big festivals that we have now, then people will come. So those are some of the challenges from our own success. Our artists are touring, they're making good money, and we're happy that they're spreading the culture overseas.
Let me ask you the question of internationalizing our festivals, our local festivals, and taking them elsewhere, because I know you have been involved somewhat with that. No, you have been involved with that kind of thing. Tell me a little bit about that.
So this is actually a very interesting piece of, my ethos around festivals and growth and also Brand Jamaica. One of the things that I try to understand, within the past 5 to 7 years is how do you maximize and extract good value from Brand Jamaica? So there's particular ways that you do it, right? You can do it through merchandising, right? But the question then becomes, who owns Brand Jamaica? Who should get the value from it? And then you can do it through the culture, exporting the culture. But one of the challenges that I saw is that as much as our artists are touring and whatever they get paid to tour, fair market value to tour, ultimately they are hired talent of somebody else's show. So when you see these big festivals happening in Europe and whatever, they are a part of a tour that is organized by an international promoter that is outsourcing the talent and bringing it to his market her market.
Right.
And then they are reaping the main benefits and rewards of doing the event. And then our artists go home with their market value fee, of course, but that is a personal payment, B2C, B2B, but the other B is a talent. But who is getting the real value of Brand Jamaica? Who is getting the real value of culture?
And that's always my big question.
Sure.
Because I often think that the more lucrative segments of the value chain generated from Jamaican entertainment do not reside in Jamaica.
So, as I said, you look at the merchandising, you look at the artist publishing. Artists are getting their publishing,
Yes.
They're getting their publishing. They're getting their fees. But the top of the food chain,
The most lucrative segment, it don't come here.
is owned by
It's outsiders.
touring companies.
Yes.
So I said, well, the way that you need to actually access the true value of our culture is to tour your brand.
So we should be organizing tours ourselves from here.
Which is what we are doing now at Dream Entertainment.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
So pre-pandemic, when myself and my partners at Dream, we set out to try and understand this value proposition and maximize it. We said, well, the way that we need to do this is by touring our culture. and then Dream as a local homegrown brand. I mean, all of us, we all live here, and this is our home base and whatever. How do we extract the most value of the Dream brand and the Jamaican cultural brand and bring our artists on the road, and obviously, become the great value top of the food chain? So we decided that we're going to create the Dream Weekend Tour internationally.
Fabulous. Want to take a pause there, Kamal, because we're going to come right back to this touring and doing it in an international way and getting more from the value chain. Musically speaking.
All of merit to the foundation of the music, to all the godfathers who set it.
Musically speaking, I'm Clyde Mckenzie, and with me today is Kamal Bankay, a young legend in the business of entertainment. Yes, Kamal, we were talking about internationalizing Jamaican festivals and securing a more significant portion of the value chain that is generated. Let's expand on that.
Sure. So, there are two ways, that you kind of, look at it. It's both ends of the candle, basically. So, essentially, we are simultaneously looking to do, Jamaican Dream Weekend festivals all over the world. Within the past 12 or so months, we've done Dream Weekend in Malta, which is in Europe. In September of this year, we did Dream Weekend in New York. We've done collaborations with Miami Carnival for our Exodus brand, and looking to expand that footprint. So looking forward to next year now, we're looking on, going to other places in Europe and, repeat in New York and other Caribbean islands and stuff like that.
And from a local standpoint, do you think that this expansion, and I'm just trying to find out, do you think that this in any way cannibalizes the outcome that we have in Jamaica? Perhaps fewer people will come because they can get it and access a Dream Weekend in Miami or Malta.
So one of the things that we're also very conscious about is that same cannibalization, right? So we're very conscious about spacing in terms of the time of year that we're going to do the event, so it doesn't really clash with the season. People travel during seasons, and one of the unique things about the Dream Weekend experience in Jamaica is the venue, the Negril 7 Mile Beach. You don't just get that anywhere in the world, right? So we call it Mecca. We say, well, you come home to this experience here in Jamaica, and anywhere you are in the world, if you love Jamaica and you love Jamaican reggae and dancehall music, you can come and listen to it in its purest form with the best artists and DJs and talent in the best location possible, which is Negril. But what we want to do is create a local festival for people in different markets internationally. So like when we go to a New York, we're not going to a beach in New York. It's not like trying to replace and replicate doing a beach festival. We're doing an urban festival there with same top quality production, good artists at a different time of the year. That, of course, is going to give you a little taste of what the
so
5 day experience
so the people
is.
develop an affinity for the brand. So
Yes.
a person in Malta will want to come to Jamaica for the Dream Weekend.
Exactly. So if you think of it in this way, right? And I'm just, kind of pulling numbers. If every year we do Dream Weekend in Jamaica and we get 2,000 people from New York to come, right? For argument's sake. I mean, people come from London, Toronto, South Florida, Atlanta, all over the world. But let's say New York, which is where we had our festival. And we get 2,000 people to come. But then when we do Dream Weekend in New York, we're able to get 5,000, 10,000 people there. You're exposing the brand to thousands of other people that may not yet have come to Jamaica. So it's a recruitment tool as well. Mm-hmm. And they travel with us at different times of the year. And we put on good quality entertainment, and we hope that they stay with us for many, many years. And we keep customer development robust.
Now, we're going to look in this policy space.
Sure.
which we are very conversant with, and we're going to talk about the whole question of facilitation
Sure.
from government standpoint. But I want you, because you are somebody who you have the figures, you know the contribution of festivals,
Yes.
for example, to the Jamaican economy.
Yes.
How significant are festivals to the Jamaican economy? And we're talking about the locally staged one. We're not talking about what you might earn from outside.
Sure.
You can add that on if you want to.
So,
but-
so major events and festivals in sports and entertainment, which is one of the contributions that I make in the Ministry of Tourism. So I chair the board of sports and entertainment in TEF, Ministry of Tourism. We did a study that was part of the Economic Recovery Task Force. The figures that were put forward to understand the value of our local homegrown market. So what we looked at is our event economy in Jamaica. Our event economy annually is about $90 billion of economic impact. And essentially about 1/3 of that is directly from festivals. And a small, when we did it's non-exhaustive, right? Because we looked at some of the bigger festivals, Tramps was involved, and those kinds of things were contemplated in the figures. So sporting festivals and your Dream Weekends and your Carnivals and your Sumfest and whatever. And when we looked at some of those festivals and we brought that in, it was about 1/3 of the total economic impact of the events sector.
And what kind of contribution would you be capturing, like hotel rooms,
Yes.
ticket sales?
Yeah, so essentially,
sponsorships? Yeah.
so as not to double count, right? How you look at the the contribution is based on economic impact. So what does a consumer actually spend, right? So if let's say you look at what sponsors pay, it doesn't truly capture the economic impact because it's a demand side and a supply side, right? So if you look at just the demand side, which is what the consumers spend, how much does a local spend on a local festival, and then you start to multiply that out, and then how much does a tourist spend on a local festival, and you start to get some metrics in there. And the spending is obviously hotels, transport, tickets to the event, food and beverage.
So all the services it
incidentals.
generates.
Right. So everything that is as a result of this festival or this event happening, that is obviously something that persons are spending on. If you look at a single event, the factors of production that go into a single event would obviously be lighting, sound, so on and so forth, food and beverage, security. So, but when you buy your ticket, you're bundling all of those services into one price. So we can amalgamate all of those services from the supply side and say, okay, well, you're paying $100 for a ticket, and then that captures the economic impact of the ticket. And then you add on the hotel side, and then everything that goes into the factors of production of hotel, and so on and so forth. There's a laundry list. So what you look at is essentially what does a consumer spend per day times the amount of days times the amount of consumers, and then that obviously gives you the economic impact of the festival.
So based on what you're saying, it could very well be in our economic interest to stage more festivals in Jamaica, obviously.
It absolutely is.
And we're looking now at the question of some of the deterrents to and you pointed out quite a few of them. I want to talk to you about government role, because
Sure.
you have a critical role in terms of an advisor, in terms of an expert on the business, and you can in your own way influence policy. How do you see the role of government in all of this?
So, and this is my personal opinion.
No, this is you personal.
This is my personal opinion.
Okay.
This is not government's opinion, right? This is my personal opinion. So although I straddle the line of a private
public,
right?
yes.
In my role in chairing government boards in the sector, I do have to represent the interests of that public-private partnership. But I'm giving you my personal opinion in this way. So my belief, is that government should, as best as possible, facilitate and incubate large-scale activity in the destination event sector, right? I don't believe that it is for government to subsidize every single event that should happen. I mean, we have 20,000 events that happen more than 20,000 events that happen in Jamaica every year, from large to small. The government can't subsidize it. The events need to obviously be economically viable on their own to make sure that people can, because it's a business, right? It's not charity. So you create an event, it needs to be economically viable on its own. But what can government do based on the climate of Jamaica and what I would call some of the logistical challenges of Jamaica to make it easier and the barriers to entry lower? So let me give you a real life example of what we did, and I was a part of this. So back in 2016, the Minister of Tourism, Honorable Edmund Bartlett, named me Chairman of Sports and Entertainment in Ministry of Tourism. And at the time, he asked me what was my vision to grow and develop sports and entertainment tourism. And I said, well, I wrote a couple of things on a list, and I presented them. But for the purposes of this conversation, I'll focus on one of the things that I wrote on the list. And it was growing Carnival. So he said, okay, you want to grow Carnival? I said, yes. Carnival is a growing global phenomenon, Caribbean-wide, North America, Europe, London, whatever. And we have a good Carnival product, but it's tiny. So at the time, Bacchanal was the only player in the market, and they had about 1,700 revelers on the road. And Minister said to me, okay, what is your vision? I said, well, I think that in 5 years we can quadruple the size of Carnival. So I said, he said to me, really? I said, yes, I think we can. I think it's low-hanging fruit, and I think we can do it. And he asked me what I needed to make it happen. And I wrote a list of things down. And he said, this is what you need? I said, yes. And he said, well, consider it done.
Well, that's Minister Bartlett. Yes.
He equipped me with the tools that I asked for. And I was able to corral and gather all the stakeholders of Carnival at the time to a roundtable discussion. It would have been the first meeting of the Carnival Stakeholders Committee. And everybody came from, the Bacchanal team to the Jamaica Carnival team, which would have been, Byron Lee's daughter, Julianne, and Sun Nation and the Dream Team, and what would become...
Yeah, because it was splintered and fractured. And one of the things you managed to do was to bring a sort of sense of cohesion to the
right.
thing.
So we all...
That must have been a little bit...
we all came together, and I basically said to everybody, I said, listen, it is the mandate given to me by the government, the minister and the government extension, to grow Carnival. And this is what the plan is. And it requires all of us to work together as stakeholders to grow it. And most people were like, this sounds good, And ultimately, I shared my vision and I shared what I believe we needed to do. And coming out of those discussions, we decided that we're going to form an umbrella brand for the marketing of our Carnival. And that umbrella brand was called Carnival in Jamaica. And, because of the role that I played, I was named as the first chairperson of Carnival in Jamaica. Lenny Salmon of the Ministry of Culture also co-chairs with myself. And we set off down this road to grow this product. And in the government's involvement, which is what I asked for, is cutting red tape. So we facilitated conversations between government agencies and the private businesses that are on opposing sides of the table and trade with each other, but are critical. So the regulatory bodies, customs agencies, the police and security forces and so on and so forth, public order, public waste, we facilitated roundtable discussions and we're able to cut the red tape and assist with funding some of these programs that help to keep the cost of running a carnival season lower.
Now that's an interesting phenomenon, the carnival thing, because here it is. You're talking about exporting indigenous cultural products elsewhere, but also there is value in importing indigenous cultures from elsewhere to our country.
Well, it's an interesting point that you're making, Clyde. One of the main sources of opposition that I got when I first proposed this, in a wider group, in one of the councils I sit in, was that, I have a very, very, very clear vision that dancehall needs to be a part of our carnival experience in Jamaica. And I got huge opposition at the time. Them said, don't change the carnival product, it's lovely. And I say, it's lovely for you, but that is why we only have 1,700 people on the road. So we need to make a unique carnival product in Jamaica that can only be enjoyed in Jamaica. Come to the home of dancehall. Yeah, you get some soca and stuff and whatever, but you're going to hear your dancehall on the road. And luckily, at the same time, I was able to speak to my partners in Dream and say, guys, this makes sense. Let's go in the carnival space as a private business. And we created Exodus Carnival. And we obviously could control the experience of what Exodus Carnival music was. So we invited everybody on the road. Idonia, Shensia, Beanie Man, everybody. They came to play in Exodus Carnival our first year. And we were able to create this hybrid product. So when Trinis come to Jamaica's Carnival,
It is different from what they have down in Trinity.
Exactly. And that is one of the keys, and that is what has made Carnival in Jamaica the fastest growing carnival in the region. And in 4 years, we hit the target and quadrupled the size of our carnival. And also, Carnival in Jamaica is a #1 economic impact destination event tourism product.
As a tourism product, and as a means of creating value added, many people have said that attractions or more events are critical to bringing people into the country and having them spend more, rather than trying to expand the ecosystem, the physical plant, more hotel rooms, more physical attractions. Because what happens with these events, after they're finished, you pull up stumps and you're gone again. It doesn't leave that heavier footprint or a larger footprint, and it allows us to do so, make more money from the tourism product, because you have the tourists leaving more money in the country without having to build these huge infrastructure. What do you say about that?
Okay, so there's a duality of the conversation. On one hand, I believe that one of the major things that we must address from public-private partnership is the building of more entertainment venues. When you look at all international markets, they have very, very, very good infrastructure that assists with turnkey operations of entertainment. When you go to any of these cities where the entertainment is had, and these are medium-sized venues, right? Small to medium-sized venues that foster events for 5,000 people and less, which is a majority of events that we have in Jamaica or around the world. Big festivals, they can be had at green fields and they can be purpose-built in stadiums and whatever, but I'm not talking about that. The regular thing for 5,000 people or less is where the regularity and bread and butter of the industry is. And we don't have turnkey venues. One of the challenges that you have, if you understand the industry, when you take a green field, which is just a piece of grass, we call it a lawn or whatever, you have to build everything from the ground up, from fencing to toilets to all your production to staging, electricity, everything. And that is a lot of money for a temporary structure. If you have a fixed structure that is properly designed and integrated in it, you get a turnkey solution. So person A who goes in to rent this all-encompassing venue then now says, well, I don't have to temporarily build all of these things and rental for one day and transport in and transport out and labor and whatever. And there's an amortized cost and aggregated cost that you are able to now utilize just by paying a rental fee versus building a venue. It becomes a fraction of the overall cost of production. And then you can keep your cost of ticket further down and more attractive to more people if you have these turnkey solutions. So that is one of the things that I believe that public-private partnership needs to address urgently. We've been talking about it. Obviously, COVID has put a dent in both the promoters, event organizers, and the government's pockets, but I hope to rapidly resume this. And then secondly, when you look at what tourists actually want to travel for, a lot of the times they want to travel, and again, this is not necessarily the byproduct, right? This is the reason for travel. So when you look at somebody coming to like a dream weekend, the reason that they're coming to Jamaica at that time is for a dream weekend. They don't happen by accident to just show up and say, oh, dream weekend is happening. No, they come for dream, they stay in the hotels in the grill, and then that's the reason that they're here, right? If you look at the festivals, you have to create a product that is worth traveling for, which is usually, as we said before, a layered multi-day experience. It's not by accident. But what we also looked at is where our tourism numbers are versus what we're tapping into from, you know, the entertainment destination and tourism dollar spent. So we designed this program called Top Events in the same, you know, board I chair in the Ministry of Tourism, that essentially the crux of the conversation is we have 4 million visitors per year annually, right? Between cruise and hotel vacationers, right? And I tried to do some metrics to understand how many of these 4 million people actually, go to an entertainment event. And the answer is less than 100,000. So you have 4 million people showing up on island and less than 100,000 going to the total sum of all of our festivals.
That's a small percentage.
It's a tiny percentage. But what does that tell you? The product either is not getting to the tourists for them to be enticed about it, or there's a misalignment between what the product is and what they want.
Right.
So it's one of the two.
One of two. But one wonders whether there is exposure to some of these products prior to coming here, and how much is done to expose them while they are here to some of these products.
And that's what the program seeks to develop. This program seeks to develop the exposure of the products during and immediately before. When you start to do your research, and you type in your keywords, Jamaica, entertainment, things to do, those kinds of things, seeks to expose people as to what's happening every month in Jamaica. So people can either make their decision around, whether I should come to Jamaica for this, or when I'm there, I can check out these activities.
Musically speaking, I'm talking with Kamal Bankay, going to the track at Caymanas Park. Into the final half an hour, musically speaking, talking with a man who is definitely a legend, a man who is multifaceted, talking about Kamal Bankay. We're talking festivals, but there are many sides to Kamal. The other day, my daughter said to me, I was at Ribby's, and boy, Daddy, your brethren, play a good tune, man. I said, oh, really? Yeah, man. She said, come on, play a good tune, man. I said, nice. All right, proud of him. But here it is, another side of Kamal, because he spoke about it. This is essentially who he is, with all the other appurtenances of power in the music business. This is essentially where he started, and he hasn't left it. So Kamal is a DJ to the bone, and I'm going to give him a little chance to show that side of him, play some of his favorite song. Kamal, it's your turn, sir.
Thank you, Clyde. Just to clarify, I still DJ often. I played up to Friday night.
All right, so
and I tour and I DJ all over the world. So it's a passion.
It's no one-off thing, because you and you used to be so involved with all these EDM guys, the Skrillexes and all of these
Major
lasers
yeah.
and all of Diplo and all of that. You still work with them
Yeah, man, definitely.
because you used to bring a lot of shows with them to Jamaica.
Absolutely.
And-
But ultimately, I mean, COVID put a big damp on
on those
a lot of those things,
parties,
and,
yes.
And we considered doing something this Christmas, but the timing just didn't work out. But I'm still DJing, playing all over the place, Europe, America, wherever, So we're happy about that.
It's your turn, Mr. DJ.
All right. So the first song I'm going to play is my favorite song for 2022. Number one.
Tell me why.
Because it encapsulates the vibe of Jamaica so well.
Hope it's none of them, man. I know you're not going to play them, man. We're going to put me in that trouble.
No, man.
I'm just teasing, man. I know you.
My
I know.
favorite song for 2022,
Yes. Wait, tell me which.
West Indies by Coffee.
Coffee. Nice tune.
Favorite song for 2022.
No, I love Michaela. She went to school with my kids and is a beautiful little soul. I just love her.
This song captures the best parts of Jamaica.
All right.
That's why I love it.
No, I love Coffee.
Ready?
Yes, sir. Kamal Bankay mixing. I tell you, this man is so many sides to him. Kamal, we're talking about festivals and standards, and one of the things that used to obtain was that we used to have to go abroad to secure a lot of the technical services because it was considered that what prevailed here was not up to scratch. How much of this still is prevalent today? Tell me, because I know we have some good technical people, first world technical people, but I wonder if there is the level of investment, given the low number of festivals, to really sustain an investment into first class equipment and all of that. Tell me a little bit about that ecosystem.
All right. So our best and brightest in the technical sound and music engineering, they tour internationally. They tour like they're artists. So they're a part of bigger and wider tours internationally that obviously their expertise.
So you're
and
talking
skills.
about like the engineers and so
Yeah,
on.
man.
Yeah, sound
John-
engineers and I mean lighting engineers.
John
like,
DaCosta
John
is-
DaCosta is one of the world class lighting
Of
man.
course.
Yes.
But when, let's say for argument's sake, I used to do my Major Laser show here in Kingston. John would do the programming of the lighting for us here locally and interfaced with the international lighting director.
Because he has to bring equipment from abroad.
There's some things that you bring in. So like the lighting consoles that people use to control a lighting show with 40 channels and stuff like that. Just for lighting. This is not music.
Not for sound.
No. Some of those specialized equipments, which are production elements of a customized show, you might have to fly in one or two of those specialized digital boards. But for by and large, our local production teams and our lighting directors and music directors, they speak the same language as the international people, and they meet in the middle and they create a show that the artist rider can be produced properly, right? So there's the artist rider, and they have their own engineers and lighting people that come along with them, and then they interface with our best and brightest that produce the equipment and set it up and all of those things days in advance, and they work together to make a brilliant show. I mean, we've had everybody here in Jamaica from the Jazz Fest days, Sumfest days, when we do Dream Weekend and all of these international events. Huge artists come and perform. So we have produced major festivals. If we do have to bring in small pieces of equipment and so on and so forth, that's par for the course, and move around those things well. But we have and we can produce world-class events. Yeah.
So you're saying, I mean, that to produce a world-class event today does not involve a lot of input from overseas in Jamaica. That's what you're saying.
No, it doesn't involve as much as some people may think it does. Again, there are specialized things that come along with a tour, that you will bring as a part of the
Yes,
tour.
and sometimes an artist has a special rider.
Correct. But then the local baseline stuff between all of the production companies here in Jamaica, from your Main Event and your Starlight and your Phase 3 and your John Swaby, when you start pulling from these guys, they have what it takes to do the event. So there's very little deficiency in terms of our equipment and technical expertise. It's world class.
One of the criticisms sometimes we have about our festivals is band changes and delays and gaps in the shows.
Right.
What do you say about that?
So again, I can tell you about my personal preference. I don't like it, right? And again, you know, when you are a part of productions, that's one of the reasons that, you know, our festival Dream Weekend is not structured like that. We are 1,000% focused on keeping the energy level of an experience up here and it not dropping. Once we build it up here throughout the course of the warm-up for the event, and we have it here, and the DJs take it up here, and we put on an artist and then take it up here again, we don't want it to drop until the event is done. And for that reason, we incorporate a live performance in our show rather than stopping to change. So, and that's just our personal preference.
Because some promoters, I believe, use these extended band changes as a means of allowing people to get themselves refreshed. You agree with that? That might be an approach that some of them take.
Again, I can't speak for anybody else. I can tell you that I believe, and I mean, I don't know anybody's numbers, but I believe that Dream Weekend has the highest liquor consumption of any festival in Jamaica. So if
But
we're
you're all inclusive.
well, some events are all inclusive,
Yeah.
right? But whether you choose to be drinks inclusive or not or whatever, the liquor consumption is there. It's for patron comfort, right?
Right.
So my thing is, okay, you either bundle and you pay for the liquor up front, and you get it whenever conveniently to you, or you want to pay it, you know, a la carte. That's your decision. But from a consumption standpoint, even when you keep the energy high, it doesn't deter somebody from consuming.
Right.
You know, so we try to incorporate that and put in service strategies like bringing the drinks to you.
Right.
By, you know, bottle girls and hostesses and servers coming,
Right.
you know, into the event.
That obviously increases the consumption
Absolutely,
patterns.
absolutely.
Yes, I mean, I do have to walk up. Yes.
Right. So we assist with that, you know, because we understand that, you know, customer convenience is critical for the experience. So we want to make sure that you can pick a spot, you don't have to leave, and the drinks come to you.
Now, we're talking about festivals, but one of the things I detect in a number of our festivals is that, say, compared to a Rotterdam, where you have the Reggae University and all that kind of thing, some of our festivals don't focus on that aspect of the event. What do you think is the reasons, or are the reasons for that in Jamaica? Is it that you figure that maybe people don't have that kind of interest in the more cerebral side of the thing, or what? And do you think that perhaps that could be attractive to another segment of the audience, which might not come just for the music?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I can't speak to, you know, kind of everybody's festival or anything like that. I can just tell you that a lot of the times people who come for a leisure festival don't typically want to participate in an intellectual capacity. They want to
Just have fun.
just have fun. That's their main purpose, right? There is an intellectual side that can be had, but generally that is a lot for the musicologists, you know, and for people seeking knowledge and so on and so forth. And I believe the two things can run parallel. And I think if you're able to do both successfully, then you can, you know, attract an even broader fan base for your experience. Because imagine if you have a music conference going on at the same time, people from the music conference may say, hey, let's go and check out this event. And then the leisure part becomes, like your addendum to your, agenda. And then vice versa, the people who are there for leisure say, oh, Ratted, Beanie Man is speaking over here at this thing, and he's my artist. I want to hear from him, and Coffee is talking about this and whatever. And there's some cross-pollination that happens. So a lot of the times people are able to do both. But for me, it's sometimes a stretch to contemplate, just based on, the level of, I would call it, moving parts in terms of producing the festivals that we do. To layer on a completely new and large and very, would need to be very well planned part of it ourselves. So maybe it is that, we should partner with somebody that does that and it's running concurrently as, the same time and, in the same geographical location, but we don't necessarily need to be able to do it ourselves. So there is some cross-pollination that can happen.
Partnership, as you spoke about from the very early stages of the program.
Key.
Just thinking about some of the things that might be left on the table in our promotions, things like merchandising. How much do you think we have paid attention to those areas like streaming, merchandising? Do you think that more could and should be done as far as our festivals are concerned?
To be honest with you, I think merchandising, truthfully, is something that is very much pegged to artists. So people will buy things correlated to either a particular brand that they love, like a consumer brand that they love, or an artist that they're very, very passionately connected to, right? So whether or not artists do their merchandising properly or whatever, I think artists generally can always do more in terms of merchandising themselves more and, in credible ways and so on and so forth. And I think that is something that we should facilitate more of.
Yeah, because I was saying, is there an opportunity for the promoters and the artists, for example, to collaborate?
So I wanted to just, qualify that. So I think promoters kind of have the platform for artists to sell more merchandise for themselves. And I think that's something that the artists can ask of the promoters. Hey, I'm performing at Dream Weekend this year and I'd like to sell 100 caps or t-shirts or whatever. Can we do a revenue share? And we're open to it, obviously, but it has to be driven by the artist, because it's the artist fans that are going to do it. Ultimately, it's their brand, and I think people will buy those things. There are some culturally significant things. We get a lot of requests for our Exodus caps and our Dream Weekend caps and stuff like that we sell. But I think that from a broad fan base, because remember, artists that we're talking about have millions of followers, right? Dream Weekend has thousands of followers. Artists have millions of followers, and I think that's where the opportunity is. In terms of streaming, I've always, kind of said openly that my product in terms of the Dream Weekend event or even the Carnival product is not a product that kind of accepts the streaming logistics well.
Because of the experiential
thing. Because remember, it's not like a theater style concert. The experience is happening in and around.
You have to be immersed.
In and around, immersed right there in the thick of things, and then you see an experience happening on the stage, but you and your friend group, you're having your own experience. And then if you're kind of looking at what are you looking at the stage, but if you're there live, you feel, you understand what's happening, and the energy is all around you. So that experience doesn't really lend itself a lot to streaming. And same for Carnival. For stage shows that have this kind of theater style performance with a big stage, everybody's facing the stage and experiencing it that way, and you live stream that, it's very similar to how you would experience it if you were there live, right? So those events can be live streamed well. So it just really depends on what kind of event you're having. The majority of Jamaican events, by and large, are not the stage show. So they would not lend themselves to the streaming.
Festivals have now become an important part. In fact, it is now, as far as artists are concerned, one of the bigger forms of income generation. That was not so in previous times. What has happened is that now an artist will give away sometimes his music in order to make sure he can get on festivals. And that has changed significantly. How do you see that?
I mean, as somebody in the music industry, I can tell you that, artist touring is the number one revenue stream for them. Number one. After that would be, streaming digital.
Yeah, and that was not because artists used to tour to sell recorded products.
Yes,
and
yes.
that was that. In fact, tours were usually loss leaders
Right.
for them. But this is certainly an upending of the business model.
Yes, because the live experience has become more important to the consumer. So seeing an artist live is now the most, because consumers are more experientially driven. So when they go and pay a price for a concert and the experience that they get there, they're paying top dollar and they pay for that, and the artist gets the the percentage of fees they negotiate, and then that becomes the premier experience of consuming that artist's product. You stream because you want to be reminded of that experiential experience that you had. So that's really how it's been kind of flipped upside down.
In terms of the festival ecosystem, you spoke about the whole question of venues and the turnkey operations that you would like to see. What else in terms of the ecosystem, that the festival ecosystem, you would really like to see in Jamaica?
Well, for us, one of the things that we need to contemplate is, okay, the venues are super critical. That makes everything, right? And then creating destination festivals has a wide, again, similar to some of these festivals that we do, has a wider cross-section of factors of production. So it has the experience at the venue, it has the experience getting there, has an experience at the hotel that people are staying at, the transport providing.
And you might have satellite events that people can take advantage
Right,
of.
Exactly.
And generate.
And kind of bringing all of those together in a geographical space is important. And I'm, a huge proponent for promoting more destination events in Jamaica to take advantage of our unique proposition, our value proposition in Jamaica. Great hotel room stock, great connectivity to huge world markets. Obviously, we're an English-speaking country, so, we can accept people from North America and converse with them easily. And our culture is great, our scenery is world-class, and we're open for business. It's easier to do business here than in some of the other countries in the region. And of course, that allows us to be able to welcome events to Jamaica.
One of the takeaways I have based on what you have said throughout this program is that if we want to expand our festival ecosystem, we might have to think about not just relying on local talent as far as artists and so on is concerned. In the good old days, you had jazz and blues where we would bring in artists. I see that there is a space. You talk about even carnival and that kind of thing. We're coming with Burna Boy. That seems like it's going to be hugely popular. I'm saying all of this to say that it would seem that in terms of promotion, we're going to have to be looking at more different ways in terms of it's not just indigenous products in terms of what we offer. How do you see that?
So in this world of globalized economies and globalization, Jamaica is a destination in the globe, right? We have our homegrown culture and our reggae and dancehall music that is the nearest and dearest to us, but the business of entertainment is a global business. So what we have to really understand is we fit in our music where we can, where the demand is, right? But the demand for global entertainment, Jamaica as a country has to present itself as a world-class leading destination and offer itself as a venue to keep large-scale global events and festivals. And then what will happen is that our biggest and best stars will have a place on those stages.
What a program this was. Kamal Bankay, I say it again, a legend, musically speaking. It was really an exhilarating program. I mean, this is chock full of information. Want to thank Kevin, want to thank Danelia, want to thank my 9/10, Maxine, all the members of the team here at the bridge. Musically speaking, yes. Thank you so much, Kamal.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.